How's it going, guys? All right, Happy New Year. I hope everyone's having a good New Year, and it seems to be doing a lot better than 2022 so far. We're only a couple of weeks in, but who knows? The markets are booming. Anyway, so I finally finished off building my what was going to be a Filecoin project. After a lot of research and review, I didn't agree with the trajectory that Filecoin was going in. The way they had it set up, it seemed like it was more of a pyramid scheme than anything to get storage file servers from people, and then other people have to pay a contract in order to utilize them. So I looked at Arweave, I looked at just putting in another 300 terabytes of Chia, and I settled on something that isn't even out yet. It jumped into my inbox yesterday, and Flux has started a decentralized Web3 storage offering, which it's still in beta. It's called, what is it called? The Cumulus Fractus, or just Fractus is what they call it. So basically, you take a Cumulus node, you can convert it to a storage node, and then basically it hasn't been released yet, but there'll be rewards based on how much storage you have, etc., etc. I mean, obviously the same 1,000 Flux you have to kind of stake. So I'm going to have to be buying 1,000 Flux, and then I'm going to create a Cumulus node and then turn it into a Fractus node, which is going to be really cool. Anyways, so right now what you're going to watch is me building the actual server that's going to host the 250 terabytes for that first Cumulus node, and there's tons of room in that server box for expansion. I have other server cases that can hold another 24 drives, etc., etc. But anyways, this was a really fun project, and now I just have to get configuring on to Flux. I've never done it before, so that's a whole other thing, but apparently there's a lot of videos out there that can help you create a Cumulus node, and then you just flip it to Fractus and you're set. So take a look at how I built the server, and then the next one will be me setting up the Cumulus Fractus node. Awesome. See you guys. Okay, so this is inside of the chassis, and if you haven't seen my other videos, you'll notice that I dremeled out all of the top here, basically just making it completely flush because there's a whole bunch of nubs that were coming out and a whole bunch of rivets here that were coming out. So what I did was I create a flush panel here at the top. These server cases actually come in variants of 24. This is the 20 bay variant, but they actually put a fourth, I guess a sixth row here in their other servers, which basically just utilizes this space here. So there's just another row of hard drives. And so what I've done is and again I'll post it up here, but I've cut this flush so that I can install hard drives up here. And yeah, there's not a lot of airflow through these. I could open up this flap here to gain some airflow and to the drives, but really these are not running at 100% all the time. So they really don't get that hot. And to be 100% honest, the airflow in these are just pitiful. I mean, the drive is in right here. The drive is completely covering any airflow. These are vented, but the drive is literally covering any airflow. So there's not a lot of airflow through the front. The mid plate does give us a little bit of throughput, but it's not being able to grab it from outside. So the mid plate goes approximately here, and it blows across the motherboard and the CPU and whatnot. But it's trying to bring in air here, and I did a video of this on my Chia video. There's really not a lot of active air coming from here. So regardless, it's not a concern of mine. We're going to install the power supply now. probably gonna use these. These are fine here. These fans. So we'll install the power supply, and then we're gonna install the motherboard, and then the mid plate. But we have a ton of SATA cables that we're gonna have to connect. So there's 20 SATA cables here that we have to connect. There's 20 here, and then we're gonna have to connect an additional 4 up top here. So that's 24 SATA cables that we're gonna have to manage here. And I did that in my Plex build, which is right below here. And there's no issue with that. So let me get to work and see what we can do with this. All right, I decided to go with the Corsair 750 watt after all. The reason being is I have a ton of extra cables for the Corsairs because I typically only buy Corsair power supplies just so I can reuse the cables in another build if I need to. So if I'm not utilizing a Molex cable, then I can actually reuse it in another one of my builds so that it's compatible. And they have a nice compatibility chart on their website with everything. So a CX is Molex cable is compatible with an MX, etc, etc. So we're just laying out the cables that we're going to need, and we're going to need 5 Molex cables, which we have more than enough here. We've got 8, so we've got 5 Molex cables, which is going to power each one of the JBOD sections, plus these fans here, which is done by a Molex as well, as you can see right there. So all 3 of these fans are controlled by a Molex. You plug one Molex in, all 3 of those mid-plate fans are controlled. Then the next one is we needed a PCIe 3 PCIe lanes. So we're gonna actually have to utilize a splitter for the PCI. I do have an extra PCI cable as well as a PCI outlet here, and I'm not sure that I want to necessarily use another full PCIe cable for the GPU. Splitters are apparently fine for GPUs. I don't quite understand the mathematics behind it, but apparently they say that splitters are fine for one strand for a 3080. So we're gonna go ahead and use a splitter here for that, and then the rest is gravy. We've got a ton of SATA. We only need 4 SATA, and that's exactly what we have here. We also have a bunch of extra SATA cables if we need them, and we have an extra slot here. So we've got a PCIe slot here and another peripheral slot here. So this should do us fine for all of those drives, and we're gonna put it in the server case and then start plugging in the motherboard. So yeah, we're moving along here. Pretty exciting. Laid out so this is our power supply, mid plate. Here's our CPU, 16 core CPU, 32 threads, 16 cores, absolutely insane. We've got 500 gig NVMe for the OS. We've got a 1 terabyte NVMe for the cache drive, which is what we're gonna need. Currently I'm running with, I think that's 32 gigs of RAM. We have to upgrade that to 128. And then this is gonna be our 3080 GPU that's gonna be powering the GPU stuff. So we've got 2 of the things that, these are 8 SATA expansions. Now unfortunately, I think in order to get all 24 drives, we're gonna have to buy another one that's a 10. So a 10 and an 8 will give us 24 drives, because this only has 8 SATA ports here. So we're gonna probably need to buy 1 more of those that are 10 in order to get all 24 drives in. And all the 24 drives are all right there. And yeah, it's all going into this beautiful, beautiful chassis right here. Amazing. All right, it's starting to get a little bit packed in here. Sorry for the sound. I turned up some of the exhaust fans here because I'm working in the server and the heat is coming out from over here. So anyways, so we've got our 750 watt power supply installed. our 59, whatever it is, I forget what the CPU is, I'll post it on here. We've got our 32 gigs of RAM temporarily until we get the 128. We've got our 3080 here. Underneath, we have a 500 terabyte NVMe, which actually fits surprisingly underneath there. You can't kind of see it, but it fits underneath there with the heatsink, which is excellent. So I had two heat sinks like this that are like pretty chunky heat sinks. The one under there actually fits with this on top, which is excellent. And then we've got our two SATA expansions here. Each one of these has 8 SATA expansions. So what we're going to do next is we're going to probably install the mid plate, because we have to install the mid plate here, and then we can start connecting all of these SATAs, I think the 24 SATAs here, because they're going to go through the mid plate, under, around, and into here. So it's going to be a lot of cable management, but it is coming along. Never buy these cards. So the ones that are here for the X16, I think it is, these never actually work for me. So I bought 2 of these a long time ago. I thought it was the motherboard compatibility. This is a brand new motherboard, state-of-the-art motherboard, and these still don't work. In fact, when I plug this one in, the system won't go past the BIOS. This one will go past the BIOS, but it won't register any of the drives on it. Previously, when I had these, I thought the issue was, again, it was an older motherboard, so maybe it couldn't take the proper PCI power or what have you, but nope, these things just suck. So don't buy these ones. I'll show you the ones that I did buy. It takes up the full, pretty much, well, 16x lane, so it goes from here to here, and those can hold up to 10, I think, and those are the ones that I had to order. But these are just crap and have never worked for me. All right, finally we got the last pieces that we needed to finish up this server. These are two 10 expansion slot SATA PCI cards. The previous ones I had did not work for the life of me. I've tried them in every motherboard. They were the 16x speed, so they were like the smaller PCI 16x. This is the full kind of PCI E4x times 30. So these I know work. Well, they work at my other server, but they have worked in the past. And so what we're gonna do is, because there's gonna be 24 drives in this server, everything has been populated. There's 20 in the front here, and then there's 4 at the top here. There's 6 SATA connections here that are already in use. So that gives us the ability to do 26 drives. Now I'm debating on whether or not to try and force that, or I can replace one of my other PCI connections that have 8 and bring that up here for the exact value of 24, and then I can use this down in the Chia node, which will give me an extra drive that I can put in the Chia node. Not too sure if I want to go like that just yet, but for now what we're going to do is we're going to remove this, just remove some complications, and start installing these two things with all the SATA backplates getting connected in, turn it on, see if we can see the drives, and start to go from there. So yeah, this is going to take a while, but it'll be cool to have it finally done. All right, we finally did it. We got all 20 of these showing up with those 2 new SATA expansion cards. We did have an issue for some reason where my motherboard stopped posting. That's pretty stressful because this is a Ryzen 5750X. So this is like a beast of a computer, and for the life of me, I've reset the BIOS, I've reset everything, I've tried reseating everything, the CPU, the RAM. All of a sudden it just stopped posting. So I'm gonna have to see what I have to do to get that fixed. But in the meantime, we've got the 20 drives showing up, and now we're gonna install these 4 drives added. The cable management isn't bad, as you can see here. It's all pretty linear, nice and clean, zip tied. Obviously it looks like a little bit of a cable mess going into here, but they're all registered. So The next 4 that we're going to install is going to be on top, and that's going to be plugged into these 2 here, those 3, and then there's an added one right there. So that should give us all 24 drives on here. We're also going to have double-sided tape on the back of these, so underneath, so that there's vibration control. All right, stay tuned and we'll have all 24 going. There we go, 24 element drives all set up.
Is it possible for you to just watch?
In there. Now what the fuck do we do with them? All right, we are finished. All 24 drives are showing up. All 240 terabytes are there. And now I need to figure out what I'm gonna do with it. I might just go with adding another 240 terabytes to my Chia. I've done a lot of research on Filecoin, and I think it's kind of a scam. I'll go through that a little later, or if I haven't already in the intro. But awesome, this entire server is done. It's ready to go. 240 terabytes of new drives. This is going to be my next project, which we're going to completely gut the inside of this server here, and we're going to actually turn this into a JBOD. So this could have an additional 24 hard drives in it after I'm done. So that's going to be a really cool project as well. So we've got 500 terabytes between the 2 of these JBODs, and we might even be able to just keep expanding with more drives. All right, guys, either way, stay tuned and keep mining on.